welcome to our November Facebook Live. My name is Heath Einstein, and I have the great pleasure of serving Texas Christian University as Dean of Admission. And you are in for a treat tonight. We have an amazing hour prepared for you. We always start all of our programs with a land acknowledgement, and so I'd like to do that now. We respectfully pay tribute to the Native peoples who've been on our land since time immemorial, and in particular, the Wichita and affiliated tribe, upon whose ancestral homeland TCU resides. And the next time you're on campus, I would encourage you to check out the monument that was erected about 3 years ago between Reed Hall and Jarvis Hall, right in the center of campus, to acknowledge this space. I love always starting these programs by seeing where everyone is joining us from. We've got folks from Florida and my home state of California. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for being with us. We've got Ana from Nicaragua. We've got folks from here in Texas. And it is a wonderful reflection of the geographic diversity that we see here at TCU. So this is really, really exciting. Now, if you've been with us before, you know that these are unscripted events, and we try to do them in a very relaxed manner. And as an illustration of how relaxed we are, I'm going to show you that I'm not wearing any socks right now. So if you want to just sort of kick off your shoes and relax on the sofa, that's great. We're going to get to as many of your questions as possible. This is the 8th in our monthly series of Facebook Live events. We've tackled issues like putting together your college essay and taking standardized tests and doing a campus visit. Last month, we did a session on the John V. Roach Honors College. So all sorts of different issues in the admission process, as well as just sort of life at TCU. And with the fact that we just passed our early decision and early action deadline for first-year applicants to TCU, that was 2 days ago, November 1st, we thought it'd be a really great idea to now bring to you some living, breathing TCU students. Because if you're an applicant right now, you kind of want to know who are the people you're going to be surrounded by when you're here at TCU. So we've got some of those folks with you. We are going to start with some brief introductions. I'll allow our panelists to introduce themselves. And then we'll just sort of hop into your questions. I do want to thank a couple of people who are working behind the scenes. You can't see them, but they are the people who are sort of making this happen. So Rob Berline from Alumni Relations, as well as Liz Rainwater here in the Office of Admission. I want to acknowledge and thank you for everything that you're doing to make this event happen. Okay, so I did mention that we just passed our early decision and early action deadlines, and just as a primer, the difference between those two terms. Early decision is a student who says, TCU is my top choice and I'm committed. If admitted, I'm definitely coming and I'm going to withdraw my applications from all the other schools. And then early action is an alternate form of early notification, but you're not obligated to attend TCU if admitted. You still have an opportunity to see what other options are available to you. We just passed the deadline. We're about 6.5% ahead in applications compared to last year at this time. I think it's helpful for folks to know that. We're still pretty early in the process, though. We have another deadline coming up for first-year admission on February 1st, and that is for the second round of early decision as well as our regular decision deadline. So a lot can change between now and then, but I always think it's good to have some of that information at your disposal. We will get our decisions out to students here in about a month to a month and a half, depending on if you applied early decision, ED, or early action, EA. We put in all of our published materials that you'll have a decision by January 1st, and indeed that's true. We actually try to get you a decision a little bit before then, but we want to build in some extra wiggle room in case something goes haywire from a technology standpoint. But we are on pace to get those decisions out. And our admission counselors are busy reviewing applications right now. And it's largely due to the effort also of our admission processing staff, because y'all sent us so much material and we've been able to enter that into our system. And if you're an applicant, you should be able to see that checklist in your portal when you log in. Okay, so let's introduce our guest stars for the evening. We've got 3 TCU students who have joined us. And I'm just going to sort of go around the circle on my screen. And Laurent, we can start with you. If the students can just sort of briefly introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your story, what kinds of things you've been involved with at TCU, and yeah, let's just jump off there. So, hi, Laurent, how are you?
Hey y'all, my name is Laurent Honeycutt. I'm from Huntsville, Alabama. I'm a senior here, a marketing major. I came in the Neely School of Business, so that's really exciting. And I am the student body president this year in SGA, so it's really amazing opportunity to represent all the students on a grand level to upper administration and voice all their problems and opinions to the chancellor and other people like that. So nice to be here today. And I also used to be an admissions tour guide, so this is really cool to be back in this mood of things.
Outstanding. Thanks for joining us. And by the way, y'all who are watching, please post your questions. We are going to get to as many of them as possible over the last several months when we've done these programs. We haven't had a chance to get to everything live, but we do try to follow up in the chat even afterwards and try to make sure all of your questions are answered. So go ahead and start posting your questions now. Okay, Elisa, welcome, and why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Elisa. I am a junior kinesiology major from Colorado. And so I am a part of TCU admissions as well as the TCU Horned Frog marching band, Go Frogs. So marching band takes up a lot of my time, and that's one of my hugest activities here at TCU. So,
what instrument do you play?
I am actually a part of the color guard. We do the flags and the rifles. We add the visual aspect to the band. So
that is so cool. I did not know that about you. All right. And Julia, hi.
Hi. Hi, y'all. My name is Julia. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Go Braves. I actually went to the University of Arizona my freshman year and transferred to TCU, but I work in the Office of Admissions right now, so I'm a lead ambassador. So I actually tour trained Elisa. So if you see any of our tour guides on campus, usually me and another girl, Julia Morales, are in charge of them.
That is excellent. Okay, so I see a couple of questions that are starting to pop in. This is great. Continue to throw those our way. Ask questions about student life or about our students' experiences when they were in high school and starting to look at colleges. And maybe that's a good place to start. And so I'll throw this to all of you. And whoever wants to jump in first is okay. Can you tell us about the first time you remember thinking about TCU and what sort of stood out to you as you considered the university?
Yeah.
So Julia, okay, yeah, go for it.
I can start first. Kind of when I was first touring schools, I was looking for a smaller school. I came from a private education school in Alabama. Only 94 people in my graduating class, so I knew I couldn't do 50,000 kids at one campus. When I came to tour TCU, I immediately kind of fell in love with the fact that how many resources we poured into me as a student, not only in just career-wise, but how much the faculty and how much the staff cared about each student. There's so many things and opportunities here in Fort Worth and just on campus that I think that every student should take advantage of, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity here.
Awesome. Julia?
I have a little bit of a different story. I didn't know where I wanted to go to school, so I applied to 16 different universities. I got into all of them but TCU. So it was kind of the biggest heartbreak I had experienced. But I went on to the University of Arizona and then transferred back. But I think for the biggest thing for me, I have learning disabilities. I have really bad dyslexia. So having the smaller classrooms and being able to have genuine and, very vulnerable conversations with my professors is a huge thing. Having those smaller classes, as well as having a bigger campus and being able to have our sports teams play on TV and have, great football and all of our athletics here at TCU. So I feel like it was the best of both worlds of what I wanted out of a school. And that's kind of how I got it. I definitely had a gut feeling when I toured though.
Nice. Elisa, tell us your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been Texas bound since before I could remember. I absolutely love Texas, the heat, the Southern mannerisms, everything about Texas. And I was actually dedicated to Texas Tech up until I toured TCU, super last minute decision. Really did not know what TCU was or what it stood for. And just like Julia said, as soon as I was on campus, there was this gut feeling. The size is the most attractive thing about TCU. The fact that we get to be with our peers in such small groups and get to know like our teachers like one-on-one and have those connections. It's a lot like high school instead of a daunting 300 student classroom, because that is overwhelming. So the size, the aesthetic, we have a gorgeous campus, and that gut feeling really just like drove it home for me. So
great. One of the things that I always talk about is the importance of finding connection. The Wall Street Journal has ranked us recently as being number 16 in the country for student engagement, and we've consistently been ranked very high in this category. One of the ways that I think we do that is how we start students right from the get-go in getting engaged with the TCU community, which leads to a question that Ryan Felch asked, which is, will you please talk about Frog Camp and the different options available? Because I think finding that connection even before school begins is really critical. So can one of you maybe speak a little about the Frog Camp experience?
Oh yeah, I can go talk about Frog Camp. My roommate is actually the director of Frog Camp, and so it's been really cool to hear his point of view on things. I think that's something that sets us apart from other universities in the sense that you come to campus, you immediately have this core group of people that you can rely on, talk to, and feel like you're connected on a deeper level than just meeting them in the lunch hall for your first day. But really, the options with Frog Camp are just kind of endless. You know, you can either go in Colorado, do all the alpine training. You can do Challenge A, where you just kind of all put together and have to do like leadership challenges, or just thrown into like mud rings. You can even go around Fort Worth and just learn about all the history and culture here that is resounding in our amazing city. I mean, the stockyards are historic, and they're just like 15 minutes away. And so whatever you kind of want to explore, or whatever you kind of are most interested in, that's going to be a Frog Camp for you. But at the end of the day, it's just going to make you have a really nice group of friends to rely on during that first hectic week. And it's one of the great reasons why a lot of students stay after their first year and continue to be friends with them for the full years here at TCU.
Yeah. Elisa and Julia, do either of you have a story to share about a Frog Camp experience? I don't know if either of you participated. And by the way, Frog Camp is not compulsory, but roughly 80% of our incoming students will do it. So
I am part of the 20%. So with transferring, I really came in and I was like, I know everything about a college. Like, I don't need to learn how to print or what to do with my student ID. And I associated that with Frog Camp. So I actually missed out on it. But I definitely, the biggest regret that I've ever had is not doing Frog Camp and meeting those initial people. With our first year experience, you meet like 60 incoming freshmen, and that's really rare at other schools. That's not just like orientation, that's all 3 events that we have. So definitely a big regret, but Elisa, maybe you have a better story than I do.
Well, Frog Camp was like a great way to meet people because you're just with your peers for 7 days and like 24 hours a day. As close as you can be, you still get to campus and you kind of like those friendships kind of die down. It's super comforting to see familiar faces. Like that first week of school, like you're by yourself, you've never been to college, like you're away from your parents, and you see familiar faces. Like that was what was super encouraging. And the leaders, because we have student leaders running those Frog Camps, they remember your name. Like that was what was cool, is like I had seniors that come up to me and they were like my leaders and they said hi and they wanted to, they cared about how I was doing. And so when they graduated, like it was really sad because I knew that they really cared about me. So just like familiar faces, and again, like those like resources, those student leaders who were like there for me. Yeah.
Great. Julia, this question is for you. Laura asked you to talk a little bit more about the transfer experience. And can you address maybe some of the resources that you found really helpful to you as you were transitioning from Arizona to TCU?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm well equipped to answer this question. I worked for the Transfer Center for 2 years. So my sophomore year, I didn't really always put myself out there. I wasn't very involved. I was in my Greek life affiliation and I kind of called it a day. And that's definitely a regret that I have. I wish that I got more involved, but then I joined the Transfer Center. Inside there, you'll meet Stefan Altheid. He is literally the best. He works in student development services. And kind of through there, we talked about scholarships, and we talked about, like, I would go in there and just be like, hi, like, I don't even know how to print in the library. And Stefan's like, I will walk you to the library and help you. So it's a great resource. It's near the Blues or student union on campus. So really great resources within that. We host like Friendsgivings. We have coffee and conversations. We will like link up with like career services, and during coffee and conversations you'll get to like just be with only transfer students and talk to career services. So they try to really equip you well with your transition, because you're not like the students who did the full first year experience. You're going to be a little bit different and all of that. So really wonderful resources within there, and I liked it so much that I joined the organization as well.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Okay, we've had several questions that have to do with living on campus. So let's transition a little bit to talking about the residence halls. First of all, Sean asks, how soon after acceptance can you choose your dorm room assignments, and any recommendations for first year dorms? And then I'll just also throw in that Jen asked a question very simply, best dorm. Okay, so now I want to, before y'all answer this, I want to share with everybody that we have a 2-year residency requirement for incoming first-year students, and that is irrespective of any academic, advanced academic standing that you might have. So, for example, even if you have AP credits that would make you a sophomore by academic standing, you still would need to live on campus your first 2 years at TCU. Transfer students, we often have housing for them, but not always, and it's not guaranteed. So that process is a little bit different. And Julia, I'm not sure if you lived on campus when you came to TCU or not, but so yeah, I don't know.
So I kind of lived on campus. It's called Grandmark. It's apartments. Half of it is owned by TCU, so that counts as sophomore housing, and then the other half is up for like any students for TCU to live in. So I lived on that other side, but it was really great. It's like was so close. I was in elementary stats, so I was going to the math building, and it was a great excuse to actually go to class because it was so close to Tucker Technology. But it was really fun. I felt like I was on campus. I signed a lease actually, and I didn't know anyone coming to TCU, and I just told the leasing office, and I was like, hi, like I'm transferring. I don't know anyone. Like, can you put me with transfer students? So they did, and they were really great girls to live with, and great to have people living with me that I didn't know necessarily, but we were all in the same boat with transferring. So really wonderful with that.
Awesome. Okay, so let's start with Elisa. Can you talk to us about how your dorm room assignment worked when you were an incoming first year student, and then also like your personal preference for like greatest dorm ever at TCU?
So dorm assignments are pretty random. You get like your housing kind of portal opens up, and like there's rooms that are free, and you kind of look like if there's like a triple available, a double available, a quad available, things like that. So like it's based on your time slot, and I had a later time slot, so there were like certain dorms like not full, so I ended up in Foster, which is one of our older dorms, but again, not bad. And I saw another question just about like how are the dorms, like freshman dorms or first year dorms, as bad as people think they are. They're not bad at all. They're super manageable. I think the hugest issue that people have is like community bathrooms, and I lived in a first year dorm where we had community bathrooms, and at first that's super daunting because sometimes it's divided by gender, but sometimes it's not. And in my case, it was mixed gender. So I knew that, out of the 4 community bathrooms that I had access to, there were, guys as well as girls that were going in and out. And that was kind of freaky as a first year student away from home. But what you begin to realize is that half of your floor is going to be suite style, which means that their bathroom is already in their room. So automatically, already like half of your peers are not showering, are not competing with you for the shower. So you're only dealing with like half of your floor. And then of that, I never ran into someone else trying to like get into the shower or bathroom. Like I was whenever I went, it was only just me, which was super relieving. And I've had like other friends live in those first year dorms where they did have community bathrooms, like sharing with both genders. And again, like very little issue, like no issues like at all with that. Like everyone kind of understood, you know, the expectation, and they get like cleaned like 5 or so times a day. So not terrible at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, those community restrooms are actually quite clean. And our residence halls are considered very nice. You know, they're consistently ranked by Princeton Review as being some of the nicest in the country. So I think our students sometimes are surprised when they get here by how nice those halls are. Laurent, can you talk about your experience living on campus?
Oh, I loved it. No, I think that goes back to our culture of TCU. I think that we're a residential campus, and that really goes with, you're going to be seeing the same, you're going to be having those connections with students by living in those dorms with them, by going to the cafeteria with them, by going, hitting out, sitting outside in the commons with them during those 2 years. I really enjoyed my freshman dorm. I did random roommates, which I was a little bit scared about, but it turned out to being an amazing time with my roommate Chase Berry, who just won Outstanding Senior this year. So it's pretty awesome to see him succeed as well. But I cannot speak highly. We're number 3 in our dorms by the Princeton Review, I want to say. I believe it's like that high, and they're all super nice. I think the only qualm with any of them is that you have to pick up what your vibe is. So if you want a little bit more quiet, go into the best dorm debate. Waits and Foster are probably where you want to go. If you want a little more social, Colby, Shirley, Clark are definitely a little more loud. But it really depends on what's kind of living situation you want during your freshman year. I'm not sure if there's a best one, but I hope that answers your question, Jen.
It was very diplomatic for our SGA president. I think you have a future in politics. By the way, what a power roommate duo you had.
Right.
That's like unbelievable. As far as like the mechanically how it works is students, once they submit their enrollment deposits to TCU, there will be a date when the housing application opens. It's usually May 1st, which is which is the deposit deadline anyway. And then you have a couple weeks to fill out the housing form. You will then be assigned a time, and Elisa alluded to this earlier, when the housing lottery is open. That happens in June typically, and you'll have a window of time during which you can select the exact room that you want to be in. So your room isn't just going to be randomly assigned. Donna asked the question about, is there an option to choose roommates? So can you all talk? Julia mentioned earlier how the roommate situation worked for her and Grand Mark. And Laurent, you mentioned that you sort of went potluck. Elisa, did you know who you were going to live with ahead of time? Because we do give folks that option to select roommates ahead of time. Did you know?
I also went random.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we give. Yeah. Go ahead, Laurent.
I will say that people that don't go random make a lot of their roommates during orientation or fraud camp, or even just someone in their own neighborhood that they DM on Instagram or through the TCU Facebook group. So there's so many different resources to find people to room with just by scrolling through Facebook and seeing, oh, this seems like a nice guy or gal to live with.
Yeah. What we have found is that there's really no difference in terms of the student experience, whether they come in ahead of time having selected a roommate or go with allowing the university to assign a compatible roommate. The experience is basically the same. So you don't be worried if you don't know exactly who you're going to live with. You're still going to have an amazing time. And our Office of Housing and Residence Life does an amazing job of creating community in those residence halls with our resident assistants and the hall directors. It's really quite remarkable. So Ella asks a question that I'm going to pitch to all of you. It's very general, but I think it's going to be telling based on how you all respond, which is, what's a typical day in the life of a TCU student? So Elisa, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Julia and then Laurent.
Ooh, so my first year that I was here 3 years ago, I got heavily invested with naps. I figured out that I could take naps throughout the day. So I would go to my 8 a.m. and then I would take a nap, and then I would go get lunch and then go to other classes and meet up with friends. And I've kind of edited that over the years. So like this year, I've kind of tried to stray away from that. A lot of it is a work day. I approach it more of a work day. Like I try to get up early to like go get the day done. I have my classes, and then like my meals is when I do like intentional time with friends. I say, hey, like this is when I'm free. Like I haven't seen you in a while. Like let's go get a meal together, because I do have other like responsibilities on campus as well as off campus, like my involvements. So it's typically like, let's make this social stuff like happen throughout the day, so I could have night to myself. Because with waking up early, I like to go to bed early and that sort. And then weekends are kind of like free game. Like if there's a football game, if there's like an event, if we're gonna go off campus and go to the zoo or whatever that might be. So yeah, good question.
I would say for me, and I'm going to talk about a day in the life of me not having a 8-month-old chocolate lab who runs my entire life. So I would say last year, definitely wake up. I love to go to Ampersand. They have a lavender vanilla coffee, and I'm addicted, and I have to get it every day. So I hope my dad is not watching this live stream and hearing that that's how I spend his money. Anyway, so I usually do a coffee date. I love doing like coffee dates with someone because I have to have like social interaction in the morning to get me ready for class. I can't just walk into an 8 a.m. and be like, okay, I'm ready to learn. Like I have to have like a social interaction before that. And then I'd go to all my classes. I'm someone who I like to stay on campus. I do my best studying on campus. Usually, so I'll stay from the first class to all the way to the end of the day on campus, and I'll go to classes. And then I love to study in Reese Jones. Everyone's a library kind of student. I'm a Reese Jones kind of girl. I don't know why, but I just feel like I get my best work done there. So I love to do that. And then usually I will go get Chick-fil-A. I'm from Atlanta. I have to eat Chick-fil-A all the time. So it's addictive, just like the coffee situation. And then usually, like Elisa said, like athletic events are so fun at TCU. Like I have never been to like a swimming meet or a soccer game at a collegiate level until I came to TCU, and it's free entrance, and literally they give away like canes and t-shirts and all this stuff. So I usually will try to, during my college days, try to get all the free things. So I really love doing that in the evenings. I'm excited for basketball season because now we'll have games during the weekday, which is always fun. So usually that is my typical day, but also life is crazy right now. So I don't really have a typical day right now.
Laurent, I imagine for a student body president, there probably is no typical day, but talk to us about what your days are like.
Yes, I also will probably opt into like Julia and talk about last year. My typical day is now full with meetings. But last year, I'm also a big workout person in the morning. So, hit that like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. workout. Then I have class in the afternoon. Maybe I hit the Blue beforehand, Market Square, which is our main cafeteria. Get some good breakfast there. Go to classes. Unlike Julia, I'm a big library person to study in. And so between the break between class that I have, I usually crank out some homework there, get something to eat on that side of campus if I'm still hungry, go to my later classes or maybe extracurricular commitments, whatever it may be, volunteer. We have so many different clubs and organizations here. There's always something that other students are involved in. And then just, kind of chill out for the night. Living on campus last year was really nice to just be able to get some Chick-fil-A, go to get something on campus with some friends, then just going to hang out, whether it's in the Commons or watching a movie or going somewhere in Fort Worth. So that was pretty basic, typical day.
Awesome. Okay, so Samantha asks, what kinds of opportunities are there to meet other students when first getting to campus? So can you talk about, we touched briefly when we were talking about Frog Camp, but can you maybe expand that a little bit and talk about all the other ways that that students find connection here when they first get to TCU? So why don't we start with, let's go in the reverse order from last time, Laurent, then Julia, then Elisa.
Yeah, so we do a lot of great first-year programming. Just in the few weeks beforehand, I mean, we have orientation that takes place it's like a 2-day getaway to TCU. I mean, you just gotta live it. You live in Milton Daniels. You make your schedule. you have like everything you like live with like 3 other people, 4 other people for just like 2 days. It's just really nice to have that kind of sense of who you're gonna get to know on campus. I met some people in that I've still known 4 years later and hang out with. On top of that, then we also have, excuse me, we have Frogs First, which is our first year programming that happens during our entire first week. And it's like the coolest thing ever. We actually have like a carnival for our first year students. We have trips to our professors' houses, so they cook you dinner. We have a big fireworks display. Our chancellor speaks. It's kind of like a little pep rally as well. So there's a lot of cool avenues to meet a lot of first year students during that, the most tumultuous time when you're not sure who you know or not sure if you're connected to our campus yet, but we make sure you feel like a horned frog during it.
Awesome. Julia, anything you wanted to add to that?
I would say since I didn't do frog camp and I had a different kind of orientation and no frogs first, being a transfer student, I would take classes. So definitely like talk to the people around you. Like our average size class is going to be about 27 people. So it's very much close knit and we're all in person right now, which is really nice. And so I just started like talking to people. I probably seemed like a crazy person because I'd be like, hi, I'm Julia. Like, nice to meet you. Like, do you want to get coffee or do you want to go study or anything like that? So I would say just having that connection with people in your classes, one, it helps during exam time because then you have people to study with. But also I met one of my best friends who actually became my roommate in my first class at TCU. That was my speech class. So I'm really thankful that I did that. And I would highly suggest, you know, even though you go through all your first year experiences, just getting to know people in your classes is so fun because usually your first few years you're going to be taking core classes. So it's all types of majors, all types of students. So it's really awesome. And that's mostly how I made my friends at TCU.
Excellent. Elisa, anything that you wanted to share about that?
So we actually have one specific class here at TCU that helps a lot of incoming first years transition from high school life to college life. And that class is called Intro to University Life. And that is only offered in fall. And it is, we meet once a week. It's just a 1 hour credit type deal. And there are like teacher assistants known as peer guides. So I happen to be a peer guide for the UNLF classes. And so I get to act as a resource for those first years. And then every single time we meet, that once a week, we are constantly talking about all resources that the students have access to, how TCU operates, and then like talking about, you know, like tough transition things. So those first years, all of their peers, you know, are going through the exact same thing. They're going through the same questions. And that's like a great way to like meet people, especially in that class and you know, talk about those difficult things. So it's not required, but it's only offered for our first years, and it's highly recommended just to smooth out that transition, again, to meet, you know, other peers, same grade, going through the same transition, you know, tackling the same difficult questions. So absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, Clay asks, and so I'm going to pose this question first to Julia, then to Elisa. As female students, how safe do you feel on campus?
I feel very safe. I would say on my tours, I always mention that I watch a lot of Criminal Minds. So I'm very suspicious at times of people. It gets a good laugh out of the dads. But I would say I feel really safe. I always talk to my dad about it, and I like go for walks when I don't want to study, and it's like 11 p.m. And my dad's like, you understand you can't do that in the real world. And I'm like, yes, let me live in my bubble right now. But very safe. We have lots of safety stuff on campus. So we have Froggy 5.0, which is my personal favorite. This is a free golf cart service. It runs throughout the night, and they'll pick you up anywhere on campus and take you right back where you need to go on campus and a little bit off of campus. So it's really nice. I was hanging out, you know, Halloween night and just, you know, hanging out on campus, and Froggy 5.0 was just, you know, picking people up, taking them back to their dorms, all that. So it's really nice seeing that. As well as we do have TCU police officers too on campus, and they're really friendly. They'll come in and talk to like your classes, your dorm, your Greek life, like all of that. So I've gotten to know a few of them. So I've definitely felt very safe on campus. And, you know, I understand that college is a little bit scary. It's your first time, not with your parents. And that's okay. And just understand that like TCU really has it down, and it's been really awesome for me to be here.
Elisa?
So I can say that I have walked campus at all hours of the night. There, especially my first year, I was just out a lot. I was out late. There are a lot of events that end late. Things like Billy Bob's. I would sometimes come back at 4 a.m. and just be walking on campus, super duper late. Felt safe the whole time. I would still walk with confidence at 3 a.m. this morning if someone asked me to, all over campus, like by myself or with someone else. Super duper safe. I've never felt the need to call an escort because we do have that option on campus. Like we do have poles situated everywhere, like distributed, so that like there's access in case we do need to go ahead and hit that button and call TCU PD, but I've never ever felt the need. I have used our Foggy 5.0 service, which Julia alluded to earlier, that student-led golf cart service, just to get from point A to point B at midnight. But other than that, I've never had any issues. And again, if I had to walk early this morning, early tonight, I totally would. So yeah, campus is also like well lit. Like once the sun goes down, like you're never in the dark ever. Like we are super well lit at all hours of the day and night. So
thank you. Okay, Linnea asks, how does TCU encourage and support cultural diversity? And I've got a couple of thoughts, and then I'll invite anybody else who wants to respond to chime in as well. One thought is within the last couple of years, we have developed what we call an inclusive excellence framework, which basically means that we view all elements of university life through an inclusive lens, whether that is what's happening in the classroom, what's going on in the residence halls, or in other activities in the co-curricular community. We want to make sure that we have as inclusive a space as possible. And so we're constantly sort of re-examining ourselves through that lens. The other thing that I would point out, which is quite recent at TCU, and Laurent has heard me talk about this, is our brand new Intercultural Center, which is on the ground floor of the Brown-Lupton University Union. And it is right next to, in fact, the SGA offices. And it is, first of all, a gorgeous space, centrally located on campus. And what I love about it is that we designed it in partnership with the students who that space serves, which is students from historically marginalized backgrounds. So it is one of the only spots on campus where you're not going to see quite as much purple as everywhere else. Why is that? It's because what our students were telling us is that we totally get the idea that we're all in with TCU and we love purple and we feel as at home here as anybody else. But we also don't want to feel like any part of our identity is muted. And so by being in a space that has all these other colors, it celebrates our uniqueness. So I love the symbolism of that. If you are on campus, the next time you're on campus, please do check out the Intercultural Center. It's a great space where students can use it for to just hang out, to study, or also hold events. Does anyone else have thoughts, generally speaking, on how we encourage and support cultural diversity at TCU?
Yeah, I would just say also go on with everything that Dean Einstein just says, that we really try to emphasize what the community of TCU looks like. As we have just learned so much about ourselves. We have our RI initiative right now, which is all about reflecting on what our past as a university has been in terms of, our issues with, confederacy, slavery, racism. And we've actually really taken critical looks at who we are as a university and gone through 3 different phases. Last year we went through African Americans and that relationship. This year we're going through Native Americans and that relationship. And then the next year it's going to be Latin Americans. And so we really made a lot of efforts to take a reflective look at what we have done and how we can move together as one university forward in this next future light.
Excellent. Okay, Samuel would like to know, what are some student traditions at TCU? So maybe we could go around and you all could respond with what your favorite TCU tradition is. Elisa, would you like to start?
Well, so I get to talk about a unique tradition just because I am in the marching band. So with that said, I'm required to be at every single home game for our football season, which is so exciting. And about an hour before kickoff, every single game day, the marching band, we meet at Frog Fountain, which is a huge symbol on campus. It is, in my opinion, one of like the most beautiful statues we have, right in front of Scarborough, right in front, like at the very top of the Commons. And so we meet at the Frog Fountain and we march all the way across the lawn, across the street, all through the stadium. We march around the stadium one complete circle before we go on the field. And it's a great time to see friends and family come out and support us and cheer us on. We do the fight song, we do the alma mater, we do lots of other songs just to kind of hype up the audience and get excited for a hopeful win that day. So I absolutely love being a part of the band for those reasons. Yeah.
Awesome. Laurent, what about you? What's your favorite tradition?
You know, I might be stealing yours, Julia, but I'm going to say the Christmas tree lighting.
Yeah.
It is unparalleled to anything you've ever probably witnessed. We have hot cocoa, cookies, fake snow, families in the Fort Worth community come out. Students, everyone, no one's in their dorm during the Christmas tree lighting. It is something insane. We literally crane over into the community commons, campus commons, a 40-foot Douglas fern, and we have fireworks and it all. It's a pretty spectacular thing. It's coming back this year, November 30th. So if you're in town, go to it. You do not want to miss it.
Julia, did Laurent steal your answer?
Of course he did. You know that. Because the juniors and seniors right now on campus are the only people that have truly experienced it. So I'm really excited that now all TCU undergrads and everyone can experience a Christmas tree lighting. That's what I always joke about my tour groups. I go, yeah, that's the reason I didn't graduate on time and I'm taking an extra semester. I just wanted to have a finale to my Christmas tree lighting. But I would say something else that happens in the Commons that has always been a favorite of mine. One was when college game day came and we were playing Ohio State in the Cowboy Stadium. That was so fun. People were like camping out in their tents before that game. But I would also say we have concerts on campus. So we always have one in the spring and always one in the fall. It's really awesome because I was coming to TCU and I was like, oh, it's only going to be country artists. Like, you know, we're in Cowtown, we're in Fort Worth, but there's all sorts of different artists that come. So Flo Rida just came. He just adores, you know, TCU students. It was his birthday, so we made us sing him happy birthday like 6 times. But we've also had like Walk the Moon. We've had Dan and Shay, Brett Young. Like, it's so fun and it's free. So you just flash your ID and you're in, and you can even bring a guest. So I think that was my favorite thing, is to be able to go to these concerts, one, with all of your, you know, best friends, all 9,000 of them, but also just to be able to like experience that for free in undergrad was like seriously the best thing that I've ever been able to do, and my favorite tradition that TCU does.
Well, both y'all's response about the Christmas tree lighting got me thinking about a question that Donna asked earlier, which is, are there any required chapel or other classes it needs to take in order to graduate? And I'm interpreting that question to mean religion classes. So can you talk about sort of the requirements for both chapel attendance, if we have requirements, and religion classes, and then maybe more generally about expression of religion at Texas Christian University? So let's see. Let's start with Laurent.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of TCU, we like to say you can make the C as big or as little as you want to here. We are a Christian school. That means we are a Christian school. But what we do with that is like we do not allow it. No one has to go to a certain number of chapels or any events. We require one religion class that you have to take through your time here, but it could be in any religion. I took a class called Religion and Sports. One of my friends took a class in Native Spirituality. It's all about getting that kind of well-rounded education at a liberal arts school. And so we really try to emphasize you trying to try something new, explore something you haven't seen before. But religion is, you know, a thing that is talked about on campus. We have so many different groups and organizations that are part of focus on, you know, Christianity or just any religion, faith organization.
Yeah, and I always like to point out, I mean, we literally have dozens of different faith communities on campus, I think more than 60. And part of the understanding of TCU and what that C means is an understanding of our founding, which was Addison and Randolph Clark, who were 2 ministers in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. And to understand TCU takes some understanding of the disciples. It is a mainstream Protestant denomination that believes in this idea of faith with reason, and that there's no one single path. And I think that sort of lends itself to creating an environment where people across the religious spectrum feel very comfortable here. So if you are a Christian and that's been really important to you, you're going to find lots of fellowship here, many, many, many different ways to connect. And you're going to find that I would say most students here are students of faith. But if you're a person who's sort of still wandering on that spiritual journey, you're also going to find like-minded individuals here and no one who's sort of thrusting their opinions on you. Elisa, Julia, would you agree with that assessment? And how have you experienced religion here?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely agree with that. It was really cool for me because I came in and just, I was like, oh, I'm Christian, all that. And I just kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper. So we do have a religious and spiritual life office on campus. So like one time I just went and was like, okay, can you just tell me about the student organizations that are on campus? Like, how can I choose to get involved with this or not? And I learned a lot more about, the faith organizations that we had at TCU, but also a little bit more about my faith, because this is time you're 18 and up. Like, it's a transition period for you in general. So like, if you are curious about like other faiths out there, or, just exploring your spirituality and stuff like that, like there's great resources on it. I think also it's really cool because we have a beautiful chapel on campus. And people sometimes joke that in undergrad, you'll never go inside until after you've graduated and your friends get married in there. But it is beautiful, and it's really cool that there's still, there's part of it, but we are not governed by disciples of Christ anymore.
Yeah. So kind of like Dean Einstein said, like there are a lot of organizations, like religious organizations that like are planted on campus, but there are so many things like right around campus that surround campus. So it's super easy to go to certain events, certain churches, certain denominations that are like a walk away or a simple drive away, like not far at all. And they do target TCU students. Like there are a lot of like college ministries going on specifically for TCU students. I think religion is a fantastic icebreaker here, because you like ask like, hey, like where do you go to church? Like or you plugged in, and you're going to get like a variety of answers. And so like there's lots and lots and lots to test your first year, and like kind of experiment, see like what you like, what you don't like. If everything you've tried like hasn't vibed well, again, like Julia said, we do have that religious and spiritual life department that you can go to as a resource. There's also tons of advertisements like constantly on campus with flyers. There's constantly emails going out just with like different organizations that you could get plugged in that are like that kind of default they are kind of different than the typical, Christian denomination. So if like you're non-Christian, like what are your other options? So like we are constantly trying to like outreach to all students of all different religions. So super important.
Thank you. Great answers. Okay, Shima asks, hello, frogs. Does TCU have work programs for freshmen, like part-time jobs? Thanks. So I'll throw this to Elisa and Laurent, since you were here as first-year students. Did either of you, I can't remember if you said this, did either of you have jobs when you started at TCU? And if not, if you didn't have a job during your first year, have you had any sort of work experience since you've been on campus? And Julia, you can respond to that too. So Elisa, I saw you shaking your head. Laurent, did you ever work while you were in school here? So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was a desk assistant in my hall of freshman year, and it's really simple process. If I'm being completely honest, it's not that much work. But basically there's a thing called frog jobs, and you can offer up to put your application in. There's jobs all across campus, whether it's in the rec, whether it's working at one of our coffee shops or rolling and bowling. Basically, any college or institution or building on campus is going to need student workers in it. It's a very easy process. A lot of the jobs just require you to just sit there at a desk and do your homework for a few hours. So if that sounds like something you want to do, I highly recommend it.
I can assure you that is not the situation if you're an intern in the Office of Admission, right? Is that right?
That's true.
We do have lots of jobs on campus. If you are provided federal work study as part of your financial aid package, definitely offices love to hire work study students, because that's not money that the university has to provide. That's coming from the government. But even if you're not work study, there are many, many jobs available to students on campus. And yes, to answer the question, that could be as early as your first semester here at TCU. As we think about, though, across your 4-year experience at TCU, internships become increasingly important as you think about your post-TCU journey. And in fact, 4 out of 5 TCU students will have an internship during their time on campus. Have any of you had an opportunity to hold an internship or have some of that really critical pre-professional experience as you've been a student here? None of you.
During the
Okay.
summer.
Oh, Laurent, you did. Okay.
Sorry.
Laurent, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just putting my hand up for just saying I have had one, but Julia, you go.
Okay.
Sorry. I over the summer I was an intern for the Office of Admissions. So I guess, you know, it plays into it because I want to work in higher education of real world experience. But I did that. So, and I think you did too. So there you go. We're probably saying the same thing.
There you go.
Yes, and I work for the Department of Veteran Affairs when my summers last 2 summers ago. And so I've been able to get plugged in just different things. We have so many good career services, and Fort Worth is like the number 2 job market. So you can always find different opportunities for internships, whatever industry you want to get into.
Yeah, and that actually leads into a question that Alex asked, which is what's it like for an average student at TCU to balance having a job and academics? So Laurent, you alluded to, like, if you've got sort of a more cush job where you're just sitting at a desk, it may be pretty simple. But what about those experiences where you have had to devote significant time to the work environment and then trying to balance that with your academic responsibilities? Can someone address that?
Yeah, I actually also, Alyssa, you go.
No, Laura, are you?
Oh, I actually had an internship during my my spring semester junior year as well. And so that was like putting in, at least 5 hours a day plus doing, schoolwork and everything else. And so it's really you first need to talk to your teachers about like what you're going through and like what that experience looks like. And on top of that, I think that all comes down to like what you hope to get out of that internship or that job. I think it's very, very manageable. People at TCU are gonna always come to you and be like, gonna be 1,000 time management seminars. There's gonna be 1,000 different resources for people to be like, hey, do you need help? And so I think you just have to understand like you're doing this job, but also your academics will always come first in a sense. If you're talking to your boss, being like, hey, I have a big exam. I don't know if I'll be able to. I might have to take a few hours off this week, and they're pretty much understanding because they understand how our school works and operates.
So having a job as well as trying to balance academia is super overwhelming and super daunting, which is why I kind of avoided it my first year. I wanted to, come to TCU, figure out college life, figure out, who I am and like how I want to manage my life and classes. And so I said, nope, like I'm not going to do a job. That's going to be too much and put me over edge. So like this year, my junior year, actually is when things have like started piling up and everything's come together. And now all of a sudden I have 5 different jobs, which is so exciting. But at the same time, it gets a little stressful. So first off, I want to say any jobs on campus, they work so well with our schedule. And like Julia, is one of my bosses and she knows my schedule and like when I can work and when I can't work. And so she has been awesome in scheduling me when I'm available and like respecting me like when I'm not available. Like they like want me to work, but only when I can, which has been a blessing. And then I have some off-campus responsibilities. And what that comes down to is honestly self-discipline, because your students will have free time. They just might choose to spend it vegging out or taking naps or, like relaxing, which is great. I want them to put their like mental health first, of course, but like after a point, they realize, hey, I really do have like enough time to like go get this done. So with like my off-campus responsibilities, like I've picked out certain times in my schedule, like little pockets of free time where I know I can get it done, where I know that I should get it done. And then I'm telling myself, hey, instead of going and sitting on my phone for an hour, like I'm gonna go get that done. So like don't overschedule yourself, but also realize like you do have more free time in the day than you think you do. And like if you need to, do that through the week and then put social events towards the weekend, like so be it. It's just about like how you want to manage your time and how you want to self-discipline yourself. So good questions.
Yeah, really good questions. Okay, about 5 minutes left. So we're going to try to knock off as many questions in our remaining time as we can. The next one is from Jessica. And she says, hello, how friendly are the TCU professors and teachers? And before, I'll ask Elisa to answer this question first, and then if Julia and Laurent want to add to it. But one of the fun statistics at TCU is that the average class size is only about 26 students. And so sometimes I think that people look at a place like TCU, they see that we play in a big football stadium. This must be like this really huge school. We're not, by the way, just medium size. And we don't have a ton of really large classes. So you're going to get to know the faculty super, super well. And that to me is one of the key distinguishers at TCU, that we can provide the sort of big and the small at the same time. So Elisa, can you talk about your relationships with faculty here?
Yeah, so actually, one of my classes I thoroughly enjoy going to, just because that specific professor is hilarious. I constantly laugh like the whole time. I absolutely love it. So like the professors can make or break on the class, especially like when it is a smaller class size. You get to know the professor really well, and like, which is like super advantageous. I do want to touch on slightly larger classroom sizes, because those do exist, especially with like our pre-med track, like things like bio and chem and physics. Those tend to be like 80 students-ish, and which is harder for our students to connect to the teachers, which is why we have this thing called like a teacher's assistant, which is upperclassmen who have taken the class and they pass and they act as a resource, a study tool, a study guide, a tutor. And so like if you can't exactly connect with your professor, you have access to like those TAs, those upperclassmen. And then at the end of the day, a lot of it is based on your engagement. So if you participate and answer questions and then ask questions within like those small classroom like sizes, your teacher notices. Your teacher then like kind of is gonna like prompt you more and like look at you and expect you to participate, which is like fantastic. So if you're not, as engaged, if you're not participating, if you're not asking or answering questions, it is going to be slightly more difficult to have that connection with your teacher. So be proactive in those like small classroom sizes.
Awesome. Okay, Lori asks, what are some of your favorite things to do off campus? Because we are in Fort Worth, the 12th largest city in America. We're only 10 minutes from downtown. There's so much to do here. So Laurent, what are some of the favorite things that you have to do here in Fort Worth?
Wow, so I have been kind of doing everything, especially since my senior year. I went down the Brazos River during the summer, just floated down that with a couple of friends. I've been to the Stockyards multiple times this year. I went to a Pitbull concert in Dos Equis, about 40 minutes away, and that was awesome. And so, if you want to do something in Fort Worth, there is definitely options everywhere you could look.
Awesome. Julia, what about you? What do you love to do here off campus?
I do love the Stockyards. When I first came to TCU, I was like, okay, I need a good pair of boots to wear on game day. So I do love the Stockyards. It's cool because they have like a year-round rodeo that you can go to, so you can kind of, throw it back to the Western times and go. It's a really fun place to go with your family too. They have a brand new hotel called Hotel Drover, and there's like a steakhouse in there. So it's really fun to like walk around. There's also a Shake Shack, and yeah, why I'm going. So it's really fun to just kind of like walk around and see all like the cattle and all of that kind of stuff. So that's definitely a favorite. And then the Trinity River, I live in apartments right next to it. So it's really fun to go for walks. And it's cool because like through the rec center, you can actually like rent out kayaks, and they do like little excursions to the Trinity River. So you can do it like with professors or just like a group of friends. So it's really awesome that we kind of use the like resources that we have, and we're able to like explore more for Fort Worth.
And Elisa, tell us one or two things that you love about living in Fort Worth.
I think the fact that, everything is 10 minutes away, like you said, like you go like one direction, like you're going like shopping, hitting, Target, Walmart, like all the fun things. You go like the other direction, you're going to like the Stockyards, you're going to Billy Bob's, like all that. So like Fort Worth is such a college town. Like they love TCU. And I've also seen like questions about cars. So like you don't need a car to like be at TCU. Like it's like the campus like takes care of anything. But like if you do have a car, if you like know friends who have a car, like it is fun to to get off campus. You kind of feel like a real person and not like a college student. It's like back to real life. You're like, wow, like groceries, shopping, like going to the mall. So super fun way to like spend time with friends. There's so many options like botanical gardens. We have like the water gardens. We have like the nation's #1 zoo. So like lots of things to do with friends and have those memories and experiences.
Well, that is a great way to finish our hour. Didn't that time just fly by?
Yeah.
Like I thought we were only like 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
But I want to be respectful of your time and the time of our guests. And so I want to express my gratitude to you, Laurent, Julia, and Elisa for joining us tonight. This has been a great session. I hope that our guests have learned a lot. And to all of you for tuning in again to our Facebook Live, we really appreciate it. We'll see you back here next month for another edition of our Office of Admission Facebook Live event. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments, you can always reach out to us over email at frogmail, frogmail at tcu.edu. You can call our office at 817-257-7490. But until next time, hope you all have a great, safe evening, and go Frogs.
Go Frogs.